Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. Hello, willkommen, bienvenue, konnichiwa, ni hao, jambo, marhaba. It's time for the Armist Inquisition yet again, episode 237 on Sunday, the 26th of June, 2022. I'm Amish Phil.
I'm Amish Ben.
And I'm Amish Matt.
And tonight we're joined by the proprietor of Ashmore Estates up in Illinois, Robbin Terry. How are you doing, Robin?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Great, thank you.
Good.
Cheers, Robin.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I know it was short notice, and I should say up front thanks to Mark Wyatt for making this suggestion, because he's been exploring your place earlier on today. And the link's in the show notes, ashmoreestates.net, if people want to check out the some photos, and you can find videos on YouTube and stuff. I mean, tell us a bit about the history of this place and how you got involved with it.
Well, actually, I got involved with it because the guy that used to own the place, one that I bought it from, he was going to put a haunted house on in Indiana, and I had a former haunted house that we ran in my building for about 10 years, and he wanted to buy some props that I had. So I told him, meet me at the building. I'll show you what I've got. So he came over and looked at everything. And when he was doing that, he finally, he started talking about it. I said, "Where are you going to build this haunt?" And he said, "Indiana." And I asked him, I said, "Did you have a haunt now or what?" And he said, "Well, I have one now." He said, "I'm closing it." I said, "Which one do you have?" Being involved with the haunted house business and all, I was familiar with a lot of them. And he said, "Ashmore Estates." And I said, "No, I've been out there before." I said, "I was actually out there in September of 2012 to investigate, but the place was so full of haunted house props, you couldn't even get around." And so he said he's going to sell it. My wife was sitting up there, and she kind of made the comment like, "Oh crap, I can't believe this." So we made an appointment, came over and visited the place, and decided to buy it. And when I was walking through the place, there was something on the second floor that kind of convinced me to buy it. It was pretty much like saying that, help our building. The building was in such poor shape that nobody wanted to stay there. And I think that was the main thing with it, is that it was just the building was in bad shape, and they weren't doing anything to it. It started off basically as a poor farm, and every county in the state had to have a poor farm, and this one was Coles County Poor Farm. It was not at this site originally; it was another site, and then it was moved out here in the late 1800s, and it was, everything was going fine. It was just, a pretty good sized structure still, but there was a little girl that her dress caught fire in I believe like 1888 or 1880, sometime in that time frame. And I get the years kind of mixed up. Her dress caught fire and she perished in the fire. And at that point, somebody from the state of Illinois came down about 30 years later after she died and said, "This building's in such bad shape because they never fixed it up from the damage done from the fire. That people were living in their own feces. They actually said the animals in the stables had better living conditions than the humans did in the building." So they decided to tear it down, and they built the existing structure in 1916. It was finished, and they moved into that. And then it continued on to about 1959 until the public aid system took over in the states and all the counties, and they shut it down. They turned it into a retirement center, basically for older age people, like a mentally challenged and things like that. And it took that over until sometime in the 80s when it shut down. I forget the exact year, but like 1980s or so, it shut down completely. And it was just, it's been a mental hospital. It's never been an asylum. A lot of people say that it was an asylum, but it was not an asylum. There's a big difference between asylums and hospitals, mental hospitals, and this was not an asylum. But it was, the long story short, that's what it went from a poor farm where it had occupants that stayed here because they had nowhere else to go, and then into a psychiatric care facility, and that's where it's at now. It's just all shut down, and we're just doing the paranormal investigations and everything there now.
You mentioned it was a poor farm. That's not like a concept I'm familiar with in the UK. I might be wrong. What does that actually mean, like a poor farm?
The poor farm was basically a place where people that had no money, um, no place to stay, they may have had health issues that they couldn't get taken care of at a hospital because they had no way to pay for anything. It was a place to go um, that they couldn't take care of things for themselves. And every county in the state had to have one. And I think this was actually nationwide. It was before our public aid system, where basically they wrote them checks. Now, what they would do with the poor farm is they would come there and they would work at the poor farm basically for their living accommodations and their upkeep, and as far as foods and meals and things like that. But they farmed about 300 acres on the property. They took care of their own livestock. They butchered their own livestock. They grew all their own food, and it was a place where they could go, that they could live, that they didn't have anywhere else to go. And it was a strange situation because you'd have anything from children to rapists in the building, even murderers and things like that. You could all walks of life lived in the building because there was nowhere else for them to go, and this is it. This was their last chance, so to speak, of where they could stay, and without living on the streets.
I think it sounds a bit similar to like Victorian workhouses or poor houses, doesn't it? Essentially.
Yeah, similar. Like there was a, what was the thing our mums and dads used to say? We'll end up in the workhouse.
Yeah.
Like if you fell on hard times, you lost your means of earning a living, then that was like the last resort. So it was it's probably a similar sort of era, the Victorian era, where our area's famous for cotton milling. So there was lots of cotton mills, and they used to be workhouses, I think they were called, a lot of them, weren't they? And that's where a lot of people ended up back in the day when they couldn't, keep themselves independently. Yeah. I mean, I think they would they have been state run?
I don't know. I thought similar sort of thing. No, I don't know if it was like local
businessmen.
Or gentrified people maybe, or some of them may have been sort of related to the church in some way.
How were the poor farms owned back in the day over there, Robbin? Were they sort of wealthy businessmen who ran them, or was it a state sort of run thing?
Yeah, they were all owned by the counties. The county had to have one for these people that didn't have any money where they went to. And you mentioned the parents and things. That we always joked about that too. Is that my parents and grandparents said, if you don't stop this, you're going to send me to the poor farm, and which is exactly what I bought. So I always tell people, I was like, that place that your parents and grandparents said you were going to send you to, I said, you're there. And the old board game by Milton Bradley, I think it was Milton Bradley, the game called Life. They used to have a place on there that you'd go to the poor farm, and they've taken it out since. I think I'm not sure why, but the old games have it where you spin a dial and you go to the poor farm. The new games don't have that any longer, so I'm not sure. So what happened to it? But yeah, the poor farm has been around for a long time. People don't know what it is now because it's stopped in '59. So it's been over 60 years ago that they shut down.
Wow, that's not that long ago.
No, yeah, I thought it would have been a little bit earlier than that, to be honest with you, rather than the 50s.
I mean, it kind of ties in because when I think about our system, our social safety nets, things like the NHS, a lot of these were products of the post-war period.
Yeah.
And then these sort of replaced the workhouses and I guess the poor farms as well. And so, what was the outlook like? Did people ever escape the poor farm, or was that you were pretty much done once you got to that sort of low and ebb?
They called them inmates while they were here, but they did not have to stay. The problem is they had nowhere to go. And so they were stuck here just because virtue of not having the money to go anywhere. A lot of the women and children might go like with family members. They might move in with family members because they would take care of the women and children, where most of the men would stay here because people didn't want to take the men in. They just, they were stuck. but the women and children went places, but they could come and go as they wanted if they had a place to go to, and there was no fences or anything like that. They weren't locked in.
Right.
I think that when we went back and did the research, I looked at a lot of the photos, and there's not a lot of information out there about the place because the people that had money didn't want anything to do with these people here that didn't have any money. So you never saw stories written up about them or anything like that. They were just like the outcasts of society, basically, because nobody wanted anything to do with them. So they stuck them out here. I mean, and these poor farms weren't like they were right next door to the local business district. They're out in the middle of nowhere. Where I'm at here is we're 7 miles from one of the largest cities and about a mile from another city. It was back off the highway. The old pictures showed they probably had like 25 trees out in front of the property, basically hiding the house from the road, so you couldn't see it. I mean, it was a beautiful structure when it was built, but the people that had money didn't want anything to do with the people that did not, and so they stuck them out here in the middle of nowhere. In every county that I visited one, they're usually hard to find because that's what they all did. They stuck them out in the middle of no place.
And tell us a bit about like the sort of scale of the building, how many people it might have housed at one
The
time.
original building, when it was a wooden structure, and then when it caught fire, it had some damage and everything. And they probably had 20 people there at one time. You have to keep in mind that Coles County, where this is not very large compared to a lot of the other counties. So it is now, but it wasn't back then. It wasn't a big county, and so they'd stay there. We've seen, there's not a lot of records out there that show a lot of things because, like I said, they don't want anything to do with these people. But from the records that we've seen, and then talking to one of the ladies that used to live out here when she was a child, they'd have maybe 30 to 35 people out here at one time. Staying, and they kind of come and go. Maybe they finally found somebody that they could move in with or go live with or something, and they would move on. But for the most part, they were pretty much here until they died. And there was like over 200 deaths in the building that were basically from staying here for so long and all that they ran out of life. This was the place they came, and they stayed here until they died.
You mentioned when you came around to look at the place that you'd done some investigating here before. Was that right?
Right. Yeah, I was out here in 2012, and back in September of 2012, and we investigated at that point. But the building has so many haunted house props. You could be in one area of the building, and there could be 10 or 12 people in that area, and you had no idea because you couldn't see past the head walls and mazes and things like that. So you'd hear a voice, and you're like, "Is there somebody over there?" Like, "Yeah, I am." Like, "Okay, well, we had no idea." It's like, "Yeah, I'm over here too." And you find out there's like 8, 9, 10 people all in about a 800 square foot area, and it's like, "Oh, this is ridiculous. You can't investigate something like this."
I'm guessing you must have known. Did the place have a reputation for this? That was the reason you came to investigate.
Yep, I had a friend that was actually putting on tours and doing things with a tour company, and he asked me to come out and give him a hand with the group. So I did that night, and but it was just going through the building. It was a cool building. I'm like, I'd like to come back here sometime and just check the place out again. But not with all the junk they have stacked up in the rooms and everything. So when I bought it in 2014, that's the one thing we did. We got all the stuff that they had in there and just started getting rid of it all.
Right. So was it quite a long process, the renovation then?
It was not as long as I thought it was going to be because I bought it in May of 2014, and I threw out a post on Facebook that said, "Hey, the only thing cooler than owning one haunted location is owning two." And I posted a picture of Ashmore Estates, and my phone blew up with a lot of friends that were involved with the paranormal, and so they all wanted to come out and help. So I started posting some work days that were going to be out here, and there was times I'd have 20 to 25 people show up to come out here and help us do stuff. And
Wow.
when I bought it, it was incredible the help we got from the paranormal community. But when I bought it, there was no roof, no water, no electricity, no windows. I mean, it was in bad shape, and most people would have said, "There's no way in hell I'm buying this place."
Yeah, it sounds like it was quite a task.
Yeah, it took us a while. We bought it in May. I was hoping to have a roof on it by September. We actually had it on by June, and we started opening up for investigations because I wouldn't open for investigations while the place was not safe. And I wanted it cleaned out and I wanted it to look a lot better. So we had the windows replaced by the end of October. There was like 83 openings in the building that we had to replace windows in. So we did all that, got that done by October. So I just had some great volunteers that came out and helped me. Without their help, we couldn't ever got it done. But it was a labor of love, and anybody that comes to this building just always wants to come back. I just had a girl that just booked her 4th investigation for this year, just about 2 days ago.
It's not Dr. Christie, was it? Have you ever had Soul Sisters Paranormal?
I've heard of them, but nope, it wasn't them.
Oh, right, okay. How does it work? Like if I turned up tomorrow, I know it's a bit of a ways from Lancashire, but how's it work? Like an overnight investigation? Is there like is it structured in any way? Or?
Yeah, what we do with our private investigations is we start at 7 p.m. and it goes till 10 a.m. We don't go through with people. There's a lot of people that don't like that anyway. They don't want to be, somebody walking through the building with them. There's some venues that do. We don't do that. We don't stay with you. Now, I have 3 girls that pretty much like handle the investigations for me. If you want them to go with you, they'll probably do it for a while. Or if they, have some equipment with them that they want to borrow, they'll usually let you borrow their equipment if they want to. But, for the most part, we just pretty much like teams don't want to be bothered. We just open the door, and there's so many teams that come back, numerous times that we're pretty much like, oh, hey, you guys do it again tonight, and yeah, we open the door. It's like, have a good time, and they kind of go in and we just hang outside by the fire pit or something and just sit there and talk or something like that while they're investigating. And then we have public investigations that we only allow 12 people in the building because we like to keep our numbers small when we do them. And those are kind of the same way. We open the door and let people pretty much wander on their own unless they need some assistance. Then one of the girls will help out as much as they need to.
Is there any specific rooms or areas that have any notoriety at Ashmore Estates?
I had actually the girls that are in here right now doing the daytime investigation asked me, it's like, what's the best place to go to? I said, you came to it. You opened the door. You came inside. So it varies all over the place. I will say that the boiler room seems to be an area that does not like female. And they tend to have a lot of experiences down there when they're down there, especially if they're by themselves. And there's other areas that the hallways, we see there's a lot of shadow figures that pop in and out of the hallways. 3rd floor seems like I think there's some entities on the 3rd floor that just are not real friendly. But then when they had the hospital here, when it opened up for the psychiatric hospital, the 3rd floor was the area where people, that was the worst of the worst. That's where they put the ones that had the most mentally challenged problems, because the offices were on the 1st floor. And when they were screaming and things like that on the 3rd floor, they didn't hear them down at the 1st floor. So they put them all the way to the 3rd. So I think that's some situation we've had there. And it just kind of varies. The rooms are all over the place as far as activity goes. And it can be, one night it'll be the hallways, next night it'll be like a kitchen area, or maybe the women's and children's dining hall or the men's dining hall. But there's certain areas that seem like they do produce a lot of activity. But what I enjoy doing is when people have gone through the building and they come back and they tell me about activities that they had, I like to try to tell them where I think they were when that happened versus just agreeing with them that does happen. So I think it gives it a little bit more beef and puts their teeth into it a little bit more and confirms things for them when I can tell them where I think they probably were when they had that activity.
Is there a particular kind of entity or presence that is renowned, or I suppose a lot of people kind of come across when they come and visit at all?
There's 2 that people like to try to talk to a lot, and we think they do communicate with them. First being Elva Skinner, who actually was the reason that the first building was destroyed. She's the one that her dress caught fire in the original building on the property, and then she died from the burns and the results of that fire. I think she stayed on the property and she's come to the new building, and she wanders around in the building. In fact, there's a interesting story about a little girl that was about 8 years old at the time that lived down the street. And she would tell her mom that her friend from Ashmore would come and visit her, and they'd sing songs in the middle of the night. And Elva was coming down. She told her mom once, she's like, I want to get hair ribbons just like my friend has. It's like, what? My friend has hair ribbons. I want hair ribbons like my friend. Well, little girls today do not wear hair ribbons. And so there's no way she could be making that up because it just happened. I mean, it was just weird that this 7 or 8 year old girl had this experience with with the girl here in the building, and she saw that she had hair ribbons in her hair like they would have worn back then. She wanted the same thing in hers. She also told us probably one of the creepiest things she told us about is her mom called me one morning and she said, I was on a Monday morning. She said, "Hey, were you guys in the building over the weekend?" I'm like, "Yeah, is there a problem?" And she's like, "No." She said, "But Autumn told us," that was her daughter, "Autumn told us that her friend came to visit and said that you guys were there and you put Christmas decorations up." I said, "Yeah, we did." And she's like, "Yeah," she said she likes it a lot better now because there's lights are on. She can see better at night now instead of always being dark. And I mean, you can't make that stuff up. It's like, this spirit child is going down and telling this 7 or 8 year old what I'm doing in the building. And I just find it just incredible that she's talking to this girl and knows everything that's happening.
How far away does she live, the little girl?
Um, she's probably about a quarter mile.
All right, so nothing. I mean, if it's 300 acres, would at some point maybe where that little girl lives would have been encompassed within the grounds? Possibly.
Yeah. Well, when the original grounds was here, they had about 25 buildings, including a school.
Right. Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah. So the girl that lived over here, um, all the acreage was sold off. The county sold it all off. So there's only 3 acres left here. So this old farmhouse, but the barn that used to be out in front of their house was part of Ashmore Estates or the Coles County Poor Farm originally. So there's a good chance that she would have wandered around the property, in different areas anyway. And the school would have been just pretty much across the street from where they live. So she would have gone over there to go to school. But she's seen the little girl out there, and she kind of started getting along with her. But Autumn told her mom that her mom lit a candle one day on the counter in the kitchen and had a candle burning in there. And she came in and she put the candle out. She said, "You can't burn candles." So why? "That's what happened to my friend. My friend got hurt because of candle. You can't burn candles." And so she put the candle out and told her that, no more candles. And, it's just, I mean, the 7 or 8 year old little girl, there's no way she can make this stuff up. She's not reading about this. And I always thought that she was probably the best person we ever had to talk about Ashmore Estates because, she's just real about everything. She just knows what's going on and who she's talking to. And she never could spell the girl's name, but she said it started with an E and there was an L in her name, but she didn't know how to spell her name. And so it's, but yeah, so we assumed and we still think today that it was Elva.
This is a recurring theme we've heard about young kids maybe having some sort of
sensitivity.
Yeah, sensitivity that we lose as we sort of hit puberty. And some people sort of carry on with a bit of this sensitivity, and to most of us, it's lost. Do you think there's any truth in that when it comes to kids?
Oh, I think 100%. My own granddaughter, she was over here. We were working on the building once in June of 2014, and she wanted to go in the building, and her mom said, "No, you can't go in there. They're working on the building. They don't want you in there because it may not be safe for kids." And she looks up at the window. She's like, "Well, why is that little girl standing in the window? Why can she be in there? If I can't be in there?" And then she's like, the little girl kept running outside the front door. She said, "Yeah, she keeps coming out the front door. How can she be in the building and I can't go in there?" And so it was pretty crazy that she's seen it too. And I think what happens is that, as a child, they don't know what they're not supposed to be thinking that they're seeing. As we get older, we're thinking, supposedly ghosts aren't real. You're taught that there's no such thing as a ghost. Don't worry about it, and all like that. And so you kind of put it out of your mind, and you just kind of blow it off. But as you get older, then your mind changes back. But by that time, you're not seeing them as much, and if at all, like kids do. But kids are very sensitive. We hold kids' days at the building, and just to try to talk to parents because parents think that their kids are having psychiatric problems when they say they're seeing their grandfather who they've never met or something like that. And it's like, no, they're just seeing what they see and they're telling you about it. You just don't want to accept that they're right, that they are seeing it because we've been trained that you can't see that stuff. And so I think that the kids are just being honest about it. They're seeing things that adults aren't seeing.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've never had like a paranormal experience with ghosts or anything, but someone very close to me has, and she was a little girl at the time, and that was shortly after her relative's death. So, maybe there is something in that. And what about animals, Robin? What about animals and psychic sensitivity? Is that something you've come across?
We've had a few people that have brought the animals into the building here, and there's two sets of stairs. Sometimes the animals will go up one set of stairs, but you've got to drag them to go up another set of stairs. They don't even want to go up that set of stairs. They just stay
Wow.
away from it. And yeah, we've had that happen quite a few times. We had a friend that brought his dog in one night, and his dog's very, very dormant, doesn't do anything, just kind of lays around. And they headed upstairs, sitting in one room with them, and all of a sudden the dog takes off running and barking like crazy, running down the hallway. And he's like, I've never seen him do that before. He said, so not sure what he was chasing. Maybe he was chasing another dog or something. I don't know. Maybe it was a spirit dog. We do know that there's animals that people have caught in the building or that they've had EVPs. There's some friends of mine that caught an EVP with a young female child that said, do you want to play with my puppy? And they probably have spirit dogs that are going walking through the building, and the animals are picking up on that as well.
Robin, for people listening who aren't professional paranormal investigators like us four, can you explain what an EVP is?
Electronic voice phenomenon. It's basically where there's something you're catching like on a recorder. It could be a digital recorder, analog type recorder, reel to reel, something like that. We tell people that you can use your phone. All you need is the voice memos on your phone, so you can record that. And they span to different frequencies, so they're hearing it at different frequency levels than what we're hearing with our own ears. And that's what it picks up on a recorder versus what we can hear. Sometimes we can hear it with our own ears, but in most cases, it's below our threshold.
Yeah, I remember Dr. Christie saying they would sort of set the recorder up in the middle of the room somewhere with like an omnidirectional mic, and then afterwards, after the investigation, they'd go back and review it because they would pick up things that they weren't hearing at the time while they were in the building.
Right. Yeah. What I like to even do when I'm investigating is I'll sit there in a room and maybe spend 5 or 10 minutes in a room asking questions. And since I'm not sensitive like a psychic might be, I'll go back and I'll listen to the recorder right then in that room. Because if I'm asking questions and I'm getting answers, if I was a spirit in the building and I'm asking you all these questions and getting all these answers, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to the other room. Like, why did I just waste 5 minutes of my dead life with you? You don't even want to talk to you. I'm answering all your questions. I answer all your questions, and that's it. You're going to walk away from me now. And so I was just kind of listen to them while we're there. Figured it's easier that way anyway.
Yeah. You told us about the little girl, the 8-year-old girl who sadly died in the fire. Did you say there was another figure who seems to be some sort of consistently getting reports on?
Yeah, there's another gentleman, Joe Boxham, that Joe was out here and he wandered off to visit some relatives. I think it's like Kansas, Illinois, which is only about 8 miles away. And on his way back, he got clipped by a train. He got hurt pretty bad. They brought him back here to the building, and he ultimately died here in the building. And he's kind of stays around. It seems like he stays in the boiler room and the maintenance room area. When he was actually living on the property here, they put him in charge of things like the grounds work and maybe like some maintenance work, things like that. He was mentally challenged, but their thought was at that point, if you give somebody that's mentally challenged a little extra work, give him something that he can maybe think that this is his own that he can work with, it'll help him out in the long run. And I think it does. I think it's anytime you're giving somebody that has some mental disabilities and you give them a chore, so to speak, and you show them how to do the chore, they feel a little bit more accomplished when they can do that and get it done. And that's what I think Joe was. And Joe, he pretty much, I think he hangs out in the boiler room for the most part. But it's, people said they've had encounters with him in other parts of the building, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I can't prove who it is one way or the other. In these buildings, and there's no way to know.
Yeah, you need to get that 7-year-old girl to have a chat with him.
Exactly.
How do you think Joe manifests? Is it a shadow figure thing or EVPs or?
A little bit of both. I think that he does come out for some shadows. there's a gentleman that I know real well, comes out and helps me out quite a bit. That he was down in the boiler room one day, and there was these two girls that were having encounters with Joe, and Joe doesn't seem like he likes girls in the boiler room. He doesn't like them down there. I think I think the reason behind that is that he thinks that women need to be in the kitchen, not in the boiler room.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So, yeah, this is my area. This is my work area. You need to go to your work area. And so girls have a lot of experiences in that room down there, and he'll pretty much like want them out of there. But the one gentleman, two girls were down there investigating one time, and they were getting some really bad feelings down there, and so he kind of stood up and kind of puffed out his chest and pretty much said, "Hey, if you're going to bother, why don't you bother me? Leave these two girls alone." And the girls told me that his feet came off the ground about 6 inches and he flew backwards and almost hit the steps with his head. And now you have to know this guy, because this guy weighs about 100 pounds soaking wet. And so, I mean, for him to even want to get in the middle of a fight with somebody would be like, are you kidding me? Why would you think about doing that, let alone something you can't see? And he still says to this day that that's what happened to him down there. And that it was crazy. And he thinks that spirit could hurt somebody if he wanted to. I believe in this, but then I don't go that far to think that maybe a spirit could hurt you. But
he wasn't beaten up by the two girls, was he?
Yeah,
he might have been.
ashamed.
Yeah, he might have. Yeah, they might have took him for a little flight there. But yeah, they said he flew backwards. But I do know a gentleman by the name of Brad Kling who used to have a TV show called Ghost Lab. And Brad was down there in the boiler room. He was calling out that spirit one night. He was down there. He was doing a documentary for his Strange Curiosity episodes that he was doing. And he was calling out that spirit, telling him to come forward. Why don't you mess with me? Brad's about 6'5", weighs 300 pounds. And Brad said that he never felt a spirit come at him or anything, but he said it got ice cold in that room. And they had data loggers down there, and you could watch the data loggers drop 25 degrees in the temperature. It went from like 77 degrees down to like 52 degrees in that room. And you could see his breath. It was the middle of June. And he said it was hotter than hell down there, but all of a sudden it got really cold, and you could see his breath and everything in that room. So he said, I think there's something down there. He's like, I don't know if it was Joe, but he said it was definitely somebody trying to get my attention.
That's a common sort of thing we hear about, isn't it? About the temperature dropping.
Mm.
I mean, is this something you also do when you're investigating? Do you set up like remote thermometers up in different rooms? Is that something you monitor for?
I have not set them up myself. I've taken them with me with like a millimeter or something like that. I've taken them with me when I've gone to different rooms to kind of monitor that. But other teams do. Every once in a while, they'll take something with them to see if there's a temperature drop. I use I'll use a thermal imaging camera a lot when I'm in the room, so I can see. I've seen situations where I've caught figures that the temperature has dropped, 20 degrees or so from what the rest of the room was like, and so. But yeah, it's strange when that stuff does happen.
What sort of experiences have you had, Robbin, in Ashmore's?
I've heard voices. When I first bought the place, we had a pigeon problem because there's windows were wide open, so the pigeons were living in the building. So I'm trying to get rid of these nasty pigeons, and I had a pellet gun up there shooting pigeons, and I heard people walking up the back stairs. I went over to yell down there to find out who it was. There was nobody there, but I could hear voices saying he's up shooting pigeons, and which was strange because I'm not investigating. I'm up there doing a job, and I'm thinking about that. But we've heard been on the first floor, and we've been sitting there having lunch. It's just like 3 or 4 of us when we're working on the building, and we hear voices coming down the hallway. We hear footsteps and conversations coming down the hallway. We've seen shadow figures, throughout the building. I've seen it myself. I've seen shadow figures myself. My wife heard somebody yell Robbin one time when she was in the building, a female voice, and she was the only female in the building. And it's, we've just a lot of voices, and then shadows I've seen myself. But it's strange when you're in there. I had one experience where I was on the 3rd floor just right after I bought the building. I was hooking up electrical, running electrical throughout the building, and something kept telling me to leave. And I'm not sensitive at all. But the longer I stayed there, the more it got pushy and pushier. And finally, I'm like, okay, if you guys are having a party and I'm not invited, I'll take off. That's cool. And so I left. But it was, and it never happened since. But So that was about 8 years ago when that happened. And like I said, nothing like that since. But I think when I bought the place, they were probably a little apprehensive because we were tearing so much stuff down that the spirits in the building, they thought, is he going to tear this building down or what? But as they seen we're doing more and more positive things to the building, I think that the whole attitude of the building itself changed, and that it's there's a lot more cooperative as far as the spirits go. They're not cleaning the building up for me, but at least they're talking to people.
You'll have to start charging them rent, Robbin.
We've tried to do something like that. Yeah, it's not working yet. Don't forget that they were here for a poor farm. They don't have any money.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
So that kind of suggests then, is there some kind of spiritual link to the building then? So if the building wasn't there, or, if nothing was there, then there would be no spirits kind of thing?
Well, I think a lot of the spirits are just attached to the property itself. And
Right.
so they're here no matter what. And I think like Elba, because she wasn't from this building, she was from the prior building. So she had to come back just to the property. And we actually have people that investigate on the grounds itself and had encounters out in the grass areas. So
Right.
it can happen about anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Samlesbury Hall a few miles away from us, and there's the famous white lady, isn't it? The white cloaked lady of Samlesbury Hall, and she's an alfresco ghost, an outdoor ghost.
Is she?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she walks across
Oh.
the garden. Yeah, she's
Right,
not.
okay.
That's where people see her. I've not seen her, but
The other one's Chingle Hall, isn't
Shingle Hall, yeah.
Shingle Hall, yes, that has a famous cold spot. A certain room, a certain corner where many people over the years have reported this sort of cold feeling of dread. And
That's the one with the broken window, right?
yeah.
Yeah, we got a few up here. Scotland's probably littered with haunted stuff. I think up north, castles and whatnot.
I found it really interesting how you described like the change, almost like a change in attitude. I think you said the word cooperative, that they were more cooperative once they'd sort of figured you out and that you were, cleaning the place up. And was there reports previously to you taking over of people having more sort of negative experiences or more frightening experiences?
There was one room in particular called Mary and Margaret's room that that was the only room that actually had one window. When I bought the building, that was the only room that had a window in it. Well, people would put plywood up over top of that window and just cover the window up. And they said reports that the plywood would just come like just falling off the window ledge up there. It would just like get pushed off or pulled off. And I think it was pretty much so that somebody could see out that window because, as I said, that was the only window in the building. But since I bought it, people still used to try to put the plywood up from the window, and the plywood never got pulled off. And I'm like, well, look at it this way. There's 80 other windows they can go look at. They're not going to play your little game any longer. They enjoy it now. They can do this other, and so there's all the windows that are there now compared to what used to be. And I've had psychic friends of mine that have gone to the building that told me originally when they came through, before I basically the first weekend or two that I bought it, it said that the spirits in the building seem like they like it. They like living where they're here. It's the only place they know because they've been there so long, but they just wanted the building taken care of, and they didn't see that happening, where now they see that happening. So I don't know if they're cooperating with people when they do investigations because they know that we're still trying to maintain the building, or if they're doing it because they're just happy to see people. Not sure, but it seems to be working out. I mean, the group that's in there today is during the daytime investigation. I was sitting downstairs there, and they were all telling me that all kinds of you're having a lot of experiences throughout the building, and they were pretty excited about it. And that was only after about 2 hours they were here.
Wow. It sounds incredibly consistent the way you're describing it, the amount of, experiences that people are having, which sounds pretty unique to me. It seems I get the impression it's very hit and miss with teams who go paranormal investigating, but from what you're telling us, it sounds like there's some serious consistency going on there.
Yeah, it seems like it is. It seems like there's a lot of the building in certain areas, and that's why I said I always like to tell people where I think they were when they experienced something. For instance, Nick Groff Tour was here in 2015. They came down to an investigation, and they've been back since then too. But in 2015, Lee came downstairs and told me, goes, hey, he said, I got a shadow figure. He said, I got to show you. I said, I got the shadow figure. I want to see what it think. I said, was it on the third floor by that white door? And he's like, he looked at me, he turned white. He's like, I'm not sure what's creepier now, what I caught or that you knew exactly where it was. And I said, well, it's happened up there before. I said, so that doesn't surprise me that you caught it. And so he showed, like, yeah, that's exactly where it was. And the desk group from Destination Fear, they caught a shadow figure when they were out here in November of 2015 and walking across up there on the third floor. And we've had multiple people have seen the same thing. So we get a lot of repetition with things that happen. If it's a residual, I'm not sure, or if it's intelligent just coming out. I don't know, but it seems like it happens a lot.
What about more sort of poltergeisty manifestations, like furniture moving, plates falling over, that sort of, like, really sort of hard physical manifestations? Have you any experience of those there?
We've not seen a lot of that. I do know, like, the one year that once again the Nick Rapture was here, they were set up on some scaffolding. They had a microphone and speaker set up on there, and the microphone, when Lee turned his back picking up something else, the microphone ended up about 10 feet away from the scaffolding, like it flew off the scaffolding and fell to the floor. So I'm not sure what that was all about. A tricycle we've had in the building they've actually caught that on camera moving. But we've not seen anything where somebody has, like, thrown something. Rocks, which a lot of locations see that. Rocks seem like they fly off every once in a while or get thrown. Nothing bad. It's just a matter, like, people say that they've seen rocks that have, like, fell at their feet or thrown across, bounced across their feet or something like that. I did have one gentleman years ago that said he felt something hit him in the back when he was doing a tour, and he turned around and looked, and there was a penny laying on the floor, and he picked it up, and it was from like 1920 something. And the tour guide was with him. I said, did you get the penny? And she's like, no, I didn't think about it. I'm like, oh, the guy gets hit in the back with a penny from the 1920s, and you don't ask if you can have it. It seems like it was kind of weird because the building was built in 1916, so it was probably from around that time frame.
Yeah, it'd be worth a few quid as well. A few bucks, rather, on eBay.
Yeah.
Especially with a renovation.
Penny.
It's interesting. I just don't know, it's like, I feel I've never had any sort of personal experience. I mean, to be honest, I don't go looking for it. I must be one of these people who's just psychically dead inside. I just can't pick up anything, man. Well, have you got any, like, techniques? Has anyone sort of thought of sort of ways or means of improving your sort of receptiveness?
I think the longer you're doing it, the more receptive you become to it. I've been doing this for about 15 years, and nothing's changed for me. But I think some people see things the longer they're doing it. But then I also think that some people just think they're seeing things the longer they do it. And, they seem to think everything's paranormal, where I'm just about the opposite. Just like out here at the building, people send me pictures and videos and things like that, and it's got to be crystal clear, without a doubt in my mind, before I'll say, yeah, I think that's paranormal, because it's not worth it. I have worked too hard to have a good integrity about things, and I'm not going to sit there and tell somebody, yeah, I think that's I think that's the spirit of the building, when it's just probably dust particles in the air.
Yeah. I mean, did you have, like, a personal experience that set you off on this journey, or why did you get into trying out? I had
some friends that I actually own an old movie theater, and I built a house inside this movie theater, and some people wanted to come out and investigate it. So I said, yeah, that's fine, come on out. So they came through the theater and the house and everything, investigating, and they called me up, told me, it's like, we really didn't find anything, but we'll listen a little bit more and let you know. So then they called me about a week later and said, yeah, we need to get together and talk. So they came over and they let me hear some of the stuff that they caught in the building. I'm like, that stuff's pretty cool. I want to get involved with this. So I kind of joined their group and started doing stuff. And, we've encountered a lot of stuff since then. I have a lot of equipment that we use when we go investigating. And it's just, I just always enjoyed it. It's just kind of fun when you go out there and try to find things that you just can't explain.
I mean, the impression I get when with talking with paranormal investigators is that it is like a community as well. It's seems very friendly and close knit, and people helping each other out.
Yeah, for the most part, that's true. I think every once in a while you get a few people there that are just in it for themselves or for the fame or the notoriety, or they want a TV show. And I've never gone down that route. Never really been interested in that type of stuff whatsoever. So, but yeah, they're always willing to help. Like I said, if it wasn't for the people in the community come out helping us with the building, we never got as far as we did, as quick as we did.
Mm. What are your plans for the future, Robbin, with Ashmore Estates? Have you got any big things coming up or big plans? Or
We're right in the middle of building a house on the property. We had a mobile home that was out here, and a girl was staying in it. So I built a house. We tore the mobile home down. We're building a house, and I've got a friend of mine who's going to stay out here to just kind of maintain the property and watch everything. But that's it. We're always doing the little things here and there to the building to make it more investigator friendly. And so as those things pop up, we just kind of continue putting it together and doing what we can to help with that out.
what do you mean by how do you make it more investigator friendly?
Well, kind of give you an idea. What I've done too is that it is 3 stories tall, and so the issue then is camera wires. People want to run camera wires so they can.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And so I already ran the wires up, so they're already there on the 3rd floor and the 2nd floor, so they can just hook into my cameras rather than having to worry about running their own up. They're already there. But we're even taking it a stretch farther. We're going to have 16 junction boxes on each floor with 4 channels, so you'll be able to hook up 4 different cameras, and it goes right straight down. So with about a 25-foot cord, you'll be able to basically investigate any room in the building. And we're going to have our own DVR system set up where they can basically just download a copy of the entire night there. I'm not going to charge them for it. Just bring your own thumb drive, stick it in there, and you can download the entire night that you investigated.
That's nice.
That's cool, isn't it?
That's really good.
I mean, imagine for some teams, like half of the fun is like the setting up process. But I know because I've been in bands and stuff, it's an absolute drag,
No,
especially packing up.
The
Right.
worst.
That's cool.
It is cool.
Yeah, we have all the cameras. I've got tripods. I've got the cameras. I'm just got to get it all set up, ready to go. And it'll probably be in the winter before I get a chance to finish it because I got to get the house done first. And then I'll start working this project again. And I started about a year ago, and it takes a while when you figure you got basically there's 32 little boxes on each floor with 8 wires in each box. I got to wire times 3. So it takes a while to get it all done. But once I get it done, I think it'll be worth it for people.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of people come in where it's their first investigation? Like not like these sort of more established teams that are dotted around, but people who choose your place for the first time?
Yeah, we do. We actually get in fact, the group from Destination Fear, their first time they went out together was here at Ashmore Estates in November 2015, before they actually had the TV show Destination Fear. Our public investigations, we get a lot of people that just come just because they want to experience something and they're hoping they see something. Every once in a while, you get a bad Google review where somebody will say, I was there for 4 hours. I didn't see anything. Well, we can't make them tap dance. It was that easy. It'd be great, but that doesn't happen. We can't make it always happen.
You don't have like bachelor parties coming out there, do you? And things like that.
No bachelor, but we've had weddings.
Right. Blimey.
Wow.
That's ace.
Who officiates like a haunted house wedding? A young
Oh,
priest and an old priest. We need a young priest and an old priest.
We've had a couple of people, and my son actually got married out here, and the lady that she was an ordained minister, and she married him. But we got another couple that are talking about it too, and they asked me to perform the ceremony for them. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, so it'd be kind of fun.
That's legal, is it, in the state of Illinois?
Yeah, you can for $29.95. You too can be an ordained minister.
Sign me up.
I love America. If I was going to move anywhere, it'd be America. Yeah, I would do that. $29.99. What a bargain!
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you can add that onto your Facebook page, Robbin. Wedding officiations, weddings, bar mitzvahs, funerals, birthday parties.
Yep.
There you go.
What did you
One
say?
more thing I
Bachelor
can do.
weekends.
Yeah, bachelor weekend. Yeah.
Oh, man. So big things. And have you some open days coming up?
We've got we were actually booked through the end of November with everything. We do have a couple of public investigations next weekend, but we have some July 1st and 2nd. We've got some things coming on for that. But there's a few tickets left. We'll have we've got some guys from the Tennessee Race Chasers that'll be back up here in November. They're going to do a double header. They're going to do a daytime investigation as well as a nighttime investigation. So people can buy tickets for either one of those or both of them. But that's pretty much it for the rest of the year, other than just our private investigations. We're kind of booked between every Friday and Saturday until late November right now. And it's kind of crazy.
Wow, that's ace.
If money were no object, we'd be out there, wouldn't we? We'd come in
Yeah,
with a little.
a few
little
thousand quid spare
Yeah.
for the flights and whatnot. Yeah, it's a bit of a waste for us, but
Click that PayPal button.
yeah. Unfortunately, about 70% of the people listening are in the States. So yeah, if you're out there anywhere near Illinois, check out the website.
Yeah.
It sounds really interesting. And I'm glad that it's so successful and that, that's going to allow you to keep this going and look after the place and, keep it going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worked out well because this isn't my full-time job. This is just kind of a hobby more than anything. It's kind of a full-time hobby, but I just keep the money there just to take care of the building and change things and update things as we need to. So, in fact, I'm sitting in one of our bunkhouses. We have bunkhouses that we have set up in here so that people can stay. In fact, I see if I can kind of span it maybe. There's beds in the room here. There's different, we got 4 beds, air conditioning, heating, and everything in here. And so, yeah, that's what we do. We've got 4 of these set up, or 3 of them set up, but it works out well. So people can spend the night if they want to, and they don't have to even leave the property. They just come back here and sleep.
Cool, yeah. So if you're traveling, you could be traveling from a different state and make a night of it, make a weekend of it.
Yeah.
Honeymoon. Honeymoons, Robbin. That's what you want to be advertising. What a great place to have a honeymoon.
I know,
Yes.
Yeah. Well, is there anything you want to tell people before we go? Because we're knocking up to an hour already.
Yeah. Just check out our Facebook page, Ashmore Estates, or website, ashmoreestates.net, as you got on the screen. And if we can help somebody out, if they're looking for a place to go, I'd be glad to do it and see if we can find the date that works for you.
Yeah. Do you have a YouTube or anything? Do you put any videos out on any of the video platforms?
I don't put any out myself. Reason being is that I think that there's a lot of venue owners that self-promote their location. I'd rather have everybody else promote it because they're the ones that are out here investigating. I don't want to go out and do it because then it looks like I'm, people start thinking you're faking stuff or you're just putting stuff out there. It's like, no. But in fact, when I do events and conventions and stuff like that, if people ask me, it's like, this place really haunted, I usually tell them, go talk to different people that are at that event. Go talk to these guys and see what they think. I said, I'm supposed to tell you it's haunted, but you need to go talk to them. And, and I think that's I guess that's a soft sell type approach rather than, oh, this thing's just, it's terribly, it's so haunted, you wouldn't believe it, all this. But just go talk to some people that have had experiences there that paid to come, that had experiences, and they're not paid staff to just to answer questions.
Yeah, it has so much more weight to it when you're hearing this from like these teams, these well-known teams across the country who go around the country looking at these different places. If they're telling you that there's stuff going on here, it holds a lot more weight, doesn't it, rather than the proprietor saying, "Come here, it's mad."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're on the right lines there.
Yeah, somebody posted recently. It's like Ashmore Estates. Anybody ever been there? Should I go? And Nick Groff actually posted this awesome location. You should make sure you get there. And it's like when you get endorsements from Nick Groff, you can't do better than that.
No, that's cool, man.
Chris's brother. Is that Chris's brother?
Chris Rock.
I don't know Nick Rock. Is he a well-known figure in the States in the paranormal investigating community?
Nick was on Nick started Ghost Adventures, the TV show Ghost Adventures.
Right.
And
he's
been doing stuff. Yeah, and actually, in fact, it's not even available in the U.S. It's available in the UK. He's got a show called Deathwalker that's been on in the UK, And yeah, Nick's been doing that. He did another one, Paranormal Knockdown, with Katrina Weidman. But yeah, he's very prominent figure in the paranormal.
Right. A wonderful endorsement. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll sign off for part 1. All the links will be in the show notes, guys. AshmoreEstates.net and the Facebook page. Check it out if you're in the the Illinois area, I would say.
Definitely.
Okay, Robin, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to sign off for this part. Just stay on the line for us for 1 minute while we play ourselves out. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Cheers,
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Pleasure. Thanks very much.